guys, I'm Marisa Rothman at Marisa Rothman.
Danielle at Danielle TBD.
And this is our podcast, We Have Thoughts. And so right now we are going to talk about the pilot of Under the Dome.
I may or may not get into the comparisons to the book because I'm obsessed with the book and I can't help myself, just FYI. Anyway, sorry. Just wanted to disclaimer that.
She should have started the podcast.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
I don't know what I'm going to say anymore.
We can start over.
It's fine.
And I won't do that.
It's totally fine. We can talk about the pilot is an interesting thing because as of right now, and hopefully by the time this post, a lot to be finished, but I have not finished the book.
Right, and we're not going to get into the...
No.
Yeah.
But I will say I have watched all the things that we've seen on the screen so far because I'm, well halfway into the book. And it was fascinating because I watched several shows that are based off book adaptations. I'm not counting Bones in that because Bones isn't... Well, no, because Bones is based more of Kathy's life versus the actual book character.
Right.
So that's not included, so don't yell at me for that. But, Dexter was kind of loosely based, was fairly well based on the first book. Walking Dead has had definitely moments that's very consistent with the comics, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not unfamiliar with book and TV adaptations. It kind of struck me, and maybe it's because I'm literally in the middle of reading this, how much I noticed all the differences.
Oh, yeah.
And part of me kind of wished some of those characters just had different names because they were so unlike their book characters. And it's like, maybe they'll become it, 6-7 episodes from now.
Right.
But part of me also wished, at least from where I'm in the book, the Barbie storyline is completely different.
Totally.
And and when I'm reading the book, like one of my friends just finished reading the book as well, and she was asking me for my thoughts. I'm like, my thing is I kind of want more Barbie in the book. Like, I feel like he's the most compelling character, and from what I've read in the book so far. And so the fact that the character I kind of most liked in the book so far is so drastically different from what I'm seeing on screen is a little disconcerting. But I will say I love the cast. I think it's fascinating to have, that cow scene was traumatic. This is traumatic.
It's not a real cow.
Yes. But then again,
Wasn't a real plane either.
that wasn't traumatic. I didn't find that traumatic.
For some of us it was, but okay.
I didn't find the plane or the truck or
No, the truck, I thought that moment was perfect.
Yeah,
because
the truck,
it was so much
was
more
so great.
about an impact, a physical impact. It was so much more about, like, there goes their food supply.
Yeah.
Now it's a
Yeah.
little moment that tells you so much more about what is about to come.
Right,
So,
and it's very much of the family who was trying
that
to
too,
leave.
who are not in the book.
Who's on the book, which was totally fine. I actually liked their dynamic, and it was fascinating to see them just completely blowing off all the advisories. Because, if you hear that on the radio, we've kind of been conditioned to be so cynical, to be like, sure.
And it
But-
didn't really sound real because who does that this day and age?
Right, exactly.
So,
Let's be honest, in this day and age, if there's going to be a national emergency, the odds are good we're going to find out on Twitter.
not in the dome, you're not.
Yeah, not in the dome you're not, but in our lives, in what we know of, and what they would have thought, I'm imagining. You would have thought Twitter. You would have thought...
It's interesting, though, because it is a small town, and a small town dynamic is very different. And I like you said, it's good to have their presence because they're more like us, and they are, I think, the eyes of the audience in the sense that, like, a lot of the things that we'll be saying, like, you just said Twitter, and then I think about it, and I realize, well, that's our industry, and that's this town, and if I were to go to, like, Maine, how many people use Twitter versus, like, Facebook versus,
I mean,
so
I have friends there.
No, but I'm just saying, like, the saturation is different depending on where you are, and so I really do like that they added
the kid
this
probably
group.
would have.
Right,
But
and
yes.
even Joe's character, in the book, he's very tech savvy, and he seems like he will be in the show as well because he's looking for the off switch already, which I think is great, a great little adage. But I will say that, like, you mentioned Barbie in the book being your favorite character, and obviously, I'm not going to spoil the ending for you because you haven't read it. I'm not going to spoil for anyone because a lot of people I've realized have said, I'm going to go read this book now after seeing the pilot. But I feel like it's almost dangerous to read the book simultaneously with watching the show.
Yeah.
Because you're going to notice all the differences. Because you're going to say, oh, I like this better. Oh, I like this better.
Right.
I've read the book twice now. I reread it just before I watched the pilot, just to remember everyone's name and all the dynamics, to see, who they kept and who they didn't keep. but I had already read the script at that point, so I knew what they were doing was different. And you kind of do have to treat them as separate entities.
Yes.
But that being said, the Barbie in the book is very much more the clear-cut hero, and the Barbie in the show, as you introduce him, like, wait, something's already going on here. Wait, he might know more about this propane situation with the town than the Barbie in the book does. And that is also, you know, whether or not it's to add dimension to his character, or whether or not it's to set up the fact that there are no clear-cut heroes. I think it's a really interesting way to go either way.
It's a fascinating thing to me, because, like, yes, he's much more, from what I've read, the clear-cut hero so far, but at the same time,
compared
to everyone else.
To the show. Well, I was actually saying compared to the show.
Right, especially there compared to the show as well. But it's also, one of the things that made him such an interesting character to read in the book is that while he doesn't have the 20-year history with these guys, he still has enough of the history with these guys. So even his role, as vague as possible, his role in the town is so multi-layered that it doesn't seem like they're going to have that here, which is going to be interesting to see going forward, because I think that has potential to make him less of a compelling character on screen. It changes the dynamic with other characters.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've already seen that, though, with Junior. I mean, they just met, and I think that the fact that you're just meeting outsiders in a terrible situation is its own... It could be its own interesting sub-story, because we've been trained by real-life natural disasters, or national disasters, really, whatever. We've been trained that people will come together in the worst times. We've seen that in our real lives, not on this show.
No.
Because some of them will, and some of them will say, you know what, I'm going to use this to my advantage. I'm going to use my power. I'm going to realize that we're in a situation where we have to hoard food, water, gas, like major regular supplies, and I'm going to dole them out to my friends and family, and everyone else can go starve in the street.
And let's be honest, if that was happening in real life, I'm guessing that would play out as well, too.
Right, but everything that we've seen, you know, from the hurricane devastations to the bombings in Boston, we've really seen people rally. And in this sense, you know, it's such a microcosm, because it's literally putting people under a microscope, because you can't have people rallying to help you. You can't get in, you can't get out. We haven't seen that in the show yet. We will very quickly see how they try to bust through the dome.
Hopefully.
Yeah, well, episode 2, they've already said episode 2 is something happens, and I won't spoil it since it hasn't aired yet, but something happens and they need to figure out, can they get in? Because this is a problem. And I mean, that's just the natural reaction anyway, as well. This thing comes down, how do we get rid of it? And then how long does it take to realize you can't get rid of it? And then what happens when you realize you can't get rid of it? Like, what do? There will be people that panic. There will be people that try to help each other. There will be people that loot and you know, and commit crimes.
We see riots when sports teams wins.
Exactly.
That's happy occasions. We don't expect your life and death situations to go any more calmly.
And then it's the whole social order hierarchy, which I'm also fascinated by, because you do have these people who are complete outsiders that don't have a place to fit normally and will probably be shoved to the bottom of the food chain because of it. But then you also have people who they've lived in this town, they've grown up in this town for their whole lives, 20 years, whatever it is, and how that comes into play with when things need to be restructured. And I will say the one major change that I'm very upset about, and this is not a spoiler for you since you've already read it. It's just Junior in general.
Yeah.
We've gotten, in the book, Junior has something wrong with him that's causing him to be murdered, like literally be murderous, like ragey and kill people, and then psychotic about what happens after he kills people.
Right.
And the book is able to spend time alone with the character and to go internally with him, just to realize there's something wrong with him, and that's why he's doing it. He's not just a sociopath.
Right.
The show isn't going to be able to do the things that the book does. So are they going to make him a sociopath? We've already seen that he has anger issues. But will they? But he's not the main character.
No, but at the same time, it's like it could be. I honestly, I don't know if they will, but like in theory, this could become, because I mean, you have Bender on board. You have a couple of lost people there. It could be a lost type situation where, in the future, we start spending either chunks of episodes or entire episodes focused on one character. Because I mean,
I just think that there's not a lot of time for that if it's a 13. You know, and,
I don't disagree.
And again, you know, they're reserving the right to want to do more after the 13, which again. You need to know what you're writing to.
I don't.
The dome either has to lift or everyone has to die.
I think that's a very dangerous game they're playing, and I mean, right now it seems like it'll come back for more because it is
right.
Well, at least the premiere was a very.
And I don't think they've written to a specific end anyway. I think that
right. No, I think the impression I gather from everything I've seen and read and heard is that they're going towards the season 2, but at the same time, I respect what things like Fox is doing with their limited series, in the sense that you know it's going to be limited.
It's much better for the writers. Limited.
Because this is a show that could, in theory, last for 5 years, but if you don't know it's going to last for 5 years, it's very difficult. I mean, it is a huge book. But
if they're not sticking very closely.
But but I do definitely think this is a situation where you don't necessarily need to say, okay, we're giving you 7 years, but you could say, okay, we're giving you another season. Let's check back in at the halfway point of this second season and see where you're going, or whatever. I mean, it's just I'm very fascinated how this is going to play out, because having read half the book at this point, and I know that's not to make me an expert, but at the same time, it's like the book is in many ways very schizophrenic in that you're getting so many different points of views at any given moment. And that's very hard to tell on a television show.
Right.
So I'm very...
But that's why I don't think they are doing
I don't think they're going to do that. But I'm, it's a fascinating thing when you do try to adapt a book. Because, like, look at Walking Dead. Walking Dead has managed to...
I've never read the books.
Okay. I'm not going to spoil that. But I would say, with Walking Dead, they've managed to stay true to a lot of the story in terms of the actual story, the progression.
Right.
But at the same time, taking the characters in different paths as they go there. So they've kind of managed to blend it, but make it not so heavily.
But I think that they've already, like, I feel like Under the Dome has already said they're not doing that. Like, it's a very much a jumping off point. And I mean, I think we see that in the pilot, just again from the differences in the characters, the people who are there, who are not there, who are outside the dome that used to be inside the dome, the people that are
who lived when they shouldn't have lived.
Exactly. And just, even Big Jim and the propane situation, you set that up in the pilot. No one knows where that's going. If you've read the book, you think you know where it's going, but then when you see the other characters that are involved in the book and what they are on the show, it can't be going that way, and it certainly can't be going that way very quickly.
Right.
And that's the thing that worries me if they want to say, well, maybe we're going to do a season 2, because you have to, if you're going to go down that road, you can't do it too soon, or you just screwed yourself for season 2, because once certain things happen,
you can't undo them.
Yeah, you can't undo them, and then they set up, we have to, everything in that dome is perfectly sealed and preserved for now.
Right.
Nothing's coming in, nothing's coming out. They're going to lose supplies, they're going to lose oxygen eventually as the air gets dirtier and dirtier. Like, there's only so many things you can do, and there's only so much time you can play with.
Right.
And the book is obviously, they could have gone longer should certain things have not happened. They could have kept that story going longer, but they chose not to, obviously. If you want to keep this story going longer, you can't have a lot of big events.
Right.
Like every time you have, well, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it.
But also, every time you have another day, you're losing oxygen, you're losing food,
you're
losing that.
But I'm saying big events.
Yeah,
there are some things that, if there's something happening in episode 2 that the more that happens, the sooner people will.
The thing.
Sure, I'm not gonna say it. No. You can all watch it, and then we'll talk about this later, because we will check back in with Under the Dome.
Absolutely. After we see a couple more episodes, and after I finish the book, maybe we can have a spoilery filled.
Yes, we should. Once you finish the book, we should just talk openly.
I'm the worst.
Anyway, I'm Danielle TBD.
I'm Marisa Rothman. It was. Hopefully you're enjoying Under the Dome, and hopefully we'll hear your thoughts about the show too.
Bye.